Hey guys, this is Jessica and welcome back to my channel. How is everyone doing out there today? We have another month of doing self-isolation and all I know is I miss my mom. I just want to be able to go over and see her. And I didn't get to take her out for her birthday because we were doing self-isolation. And it looks like we'll be doing the same thing for my birthday. So maybe I'll do a special birthday vlog so y'all can see what it's like to spend birthday by yourself. But anyways, so today's video is kind of going to be a different video for me. With this whole pandemic that's going on and it being a respiratory issue, I just wanted to kind of share my story that I had with a respiratory issue, and it was a pretty bad one, and you know, just kind of share my thoughts and tidbits on it, and you know, just to like let you know what some of the signs are that it could be going down that road to a serious respiratory problem, and you know, just kind of give you the whole story of what all happened to me with this respiratory issue. But first of all, if you are a new subscriber, thank you so much for subscribing to my channel, and if you haven't yet, go ahead and click that subscribe button, and don't forget to click the bell right next to it to get notified of whenever I post new videos. Also, if you want to add me on social media or send me an email, everything is in the description box down below for you guys. So like I said, I did have a very serious respiratory issue back in 2015. Now this was a time where this was pre-cancer for me, so I had several biopsies and I was supposed to have surgery to see if I did have cancer. And at this time I was talking to this one guy, and I had went to Houston to spend the weekend and just for us to hang out and things like that. And while I was over there, we went to the Galleria, which is this huge mall out in Houston. It's like 3 stories, ice skating ring, restaurants, everything like that. Well, of course, also at that time, I was, I think I was about like 370, 380 at that time. So I was definitely like 100 pounds heavier than what I am now. And so it was very difficult for me to like walk around the Galleria. I was definitely getting more winded. I could feel something was happening because I was hot all the time back then, but it felt like a feverish kind of hotness, and I was starting to cough a lot, and I was starting to get the mucus, which I've always gotten mucus and cough up mucus and things like that, so it wasn't like out of the ordinary or anything like that. Well, so after that weekend, I went home. So, you know, I had just kept on coughing up mucus, and it was like the green mucus, you know, that you get during those certain times of the year. And also, I want to say at this time, I was not getting flu shots, and I was not getting any kind of shots of that nature to help you. So yeah, just put that out there also. So basically it just kind of happened overnight, really. I had this one night where I could not lay down to go to sleep. No matter what position I got in, my side would hurt so bad. It felt like someone was sitting on my chest. No matter how I laid down, whether it was on either one of my sides or on my back, I just could not catch my breath. And it was like I was gasping for air. So I was like, okay, well, maybe it's just because I'm sick, so I'll just sit in the recliner to sleep. Even sitting in the recliner, it hurt my chest so bad. Like, I couldn't lean back in the recliner. I just had to sit up straight on the edge of the recliner. Like, and I was just like, I couldn't take deep breaths. It was very, very hard for me to catch my breath. I was like I just couldn't get enough air in my lungs. So, and it was starting to hurt really, really bad. So at that time I was staying with my mom. So I told my mom, you know, I was like, I've been up all night. I couldn't lay down to sleep. It's hard for me to breathe, you know, just going to the bathroom, it winded me out. I called my doctor, my general doctor first, and, you know, I went there and he was like, okay, well, you know, we're going to give you a Z-Pack, you know, to help kind of like knock out all that congestion and, you know, things like that. And he also wanted me to get an X-ray. And that's all that they were going to do for it. But I was just having such a hard time breathing. So I looked at my mom and I was like, screw that. Let's just go to the emergency room because you know, a Z-Pack is going to take days for it to get out of your system. And so I was like, you know, let's just go to the emergency room and also see what they say. We end up going to the emergency room, and of course, you know, we were there for hours and hours and hours and hours on end, and they did, you know, x-rays and everything like that. So I think we probably got there around, I want to say we got to the emergency room around noontime, and I was still there at like 8 o'clock at night, and eventually they were like, okay, well, we are going to admit you into the hospital because it looks like you have pneumonia and the reason why you can't breathe is because your lung is full of fluid. Great. You know, so at that point in time I was like, oh, well, no wonder I couldn't breathe. And basically they told me if I would have waited another day that I would have been dead because my lung was like 90% full of fluid. So that's kind of scary to hear, that if you would have waited another day that you would have died. You know, like that's crazy to hear. You know, sometimes you think that you wouldn't hear that just from having mucus in your lungs, you know. That's why this pandemic is so serious, because that mucus in your lungs, it just like blocks off everything to where air cannot get in. I mean, if you have ever coughed up mucus before, you see how thick that mucus is. And my lung was full of that. Like 90% of that was in my lungs. So therefore, that started my hospital stay. Now, throughout this whole thing, I'll put up pictures and stuff in this video also. I was in the hospital for 5 weeks. I was in the hospital for over a month, and you know, my boyfriend, he gives me so much grief because I am just not a fan of eggs. But the reason I am not a fan of eggs anymore is because I was in the hospital for 5 weeks, and every breakfast they would give me eggs. And I was so tired of eggs by the time I did get out of the hospital. So my infection was so bad in my lungs that they were having to give me the strongest antibiotic that they had, which was vancomycin. And it comes to find out, we found out that I am allergic to whatever is in vancomycin. And I had a rash all over my body. It literally looked like heat rash, but everywhere. It was really, really bad. And while being in the hospital, it is like a form of self-isolation when you are in the hospital. I would have my mom there some of the time. I mean, she was there for a good amount of the time, but of course, you know, she would get tired of being up at the hospital. So, you know, I would tell her, you know, it's okay, go home, I'll be fine by myself. And I did have a couple of friends come and see me when I was in the hospital. But, you know, being in the hospital is not fun. It is not a fun situation. Your mindset is, all I can do is speak of my experience and my mindset, but I was just like, you know, what did I do to deserve this? Is God punishing me? And now that I think about that, I know that's stupid to think of it that way, but that is what my mindset was. You know, I had this possible cancer looming over my head, and I just knew that this was going to derail that. So the longer I was in the hospital, I just kept thinking like, oh my God, like, I may have this cancer in me and I can't do anything about it right now, you know? So they were having to give me like breathing treatments and things like that. And it just seemed like nothing was knocking out this infection. They had to put me on oxygen and everything like that. And it was so difficult. I don't think I was even getting up to go to the bathroom. I think they put a catheter in me, so I wasn't having to get up to go to the bathroom. They also had to end up putting a PICC line in me, which, if you don't know what a PICC line is, I'll just kind of show you where they put it. At least on me, this is where they put it. I think they ended up going through my arm, and because there's this vein right here, and they ended up, you know, they have to have like an ultrasound kind of machine, and they end up, you know, guiding this PICC line through your arm into your main artery in your neck. So that was not fun. And let me just say that this was the first time I was having to actually be in a hospital as a patient and going through all these kinds of tests. They had been butterflying my hand because I have really deep veins. So I had this huge bruise, like right here. It was just all a bruise right here, right? But basically the infection was not getting better, and there was still a lot of mucus in there. I was having to get chest x-rays every day to see if it was going down or whatever. So they decided that the vancomycin was not working, so they were going to do surgery on me. So for the surgery, they basically put chest tubes in my chest. I had two, one on the side and one in the back of my chest. And if you look at my back, you can see where the chest tubes were inserted. That was my very first surgery for me to ever have, was chest tubes in my chest. So it was so funny because I remember kind of waking up from surgery and I was still like in the back, and I was like so in and out of it. But from what I could remember, I remember like feeling, because I could feel something in my nose, and I was like, is there something in my nose? And it was like the breathing tube, and they were like, oh no, don't pull it out. So yeah, and I remember feeling them taking it out, and it was not a very pleasant experience. The inside of my nostril was so raw, and it was so tender. Ooh, I would not wish that on anybody. So then I was in ICU for about, I think think I was in ICU for maybe about 4 days. And ICU is not a fun place to be either. Like, anywhere at a hospital is not a fun place to be. My mom could only, you know, be there like 2 hours out of the day, and it was it was rough recovering from this. I'm just gonna say that. But basically, we found out that they have been pumping me full of vancomycin, that my body was starting to shut down from it. So my kidneys got down to functioning to like 10%. And that's not good for your kidneys to get down to functioning at only 10%. So then they had to put me on dialysis. And I was on dialysis for about two to 3 months. They did not know if my kidneys were going to turn around. They were like, well, you're young, so fingers crossed, hopefully they will turn around. But we really didn't know. So whenever I did get released from the hospital, I was having to go to a dialysis center. I was the youngest person there doing it. And if anybody wants like my experience on being on dialysis, please like give this video a thumbs up or leave a comment, and I will do a video on what being on dialysis was like for me and that process also. I guess me just like saying all of this is like, you can go into the hospital for one thing and they are trying to help you and trying to treat you, and because of that, other issues can arise. And I feel like that's also like another thing about this pandemic that's going on, is like you can go in there for one thing and you can have like a whole list of other things that happen to you because they're trying to help you. They're trying to help you get better. Like what happened with me. And now I do get my flu shots now. I get all those shots that I'm supposed to, because 2 times out of the year I do get sick around this time and around September, October, you know. So whenever I do feel like I'm starting to get mucus in my lung, I go to the doctor right then, or I go get me some Mucinex and I just start taking the Mucinex. Now, one thing my doctor did tell me is that don't get the pills of Mucinex. The liquid works way better. It breaks it down more, and it's just for some reason a little bit stronger than the pill form. You definitely have to know your body and just know that something is off, something is not right. Now, the bad thing about what's going on right now is you can have it and not even know it. That's the scary thing about what's going on now. I guess I kind of just want to share like a little tidbit or a little trick of what I do to know if I'm starting to get fluid in my lung or not. What I do is I just sit up real straight. I take a deep breath and I hold it for 10 seconds. So just go. Exhale. If I have discomfort holding in that breath, if it's very hard for me, if when I exhale I have a little bit of pain or it feels not comfortable to me, I know, okay, I need to go to the doctor because something is not right. If you are healthy, you should be able to take a deep breath, hold it in, and you should not feel any kind of discomfort whatsoever. So I guess that's kind of just something to keep in mind while all of this is going on, you know, because it snuck up on me so quick. Like, it's like one day I was fine and, you know, I was just had a little bit of mucus, and the next day I couldn't breathe. I couldn't lay down because it hurt. I couldn't take deep breaths. I couldn't even sit up in really a chair. You know, riding to the hospital was so painful. Like every bump I would feel in the car, it would just hurt me so bad. And I know my mom was freaking out about it, but I was too, because I was the one that couldn't breathe. But I guess I kind of just wanted to share my experience with having a serious respiratory issue, and just kind of maybe sharing like the signs that were there that at that time I didn't know I had, and just to be careful out there. Just because you don't have any signs doesn't mean that you don't have it. And I know I would feel so bad if I was to pass it along to my grandmother or anybody else who I love and I care about. I would be devastated, but that's why it's important to stay home, because we don't know if we have it or if we don't have it. And there's so much information that we don't even really know about everything that's going on right now. But I hope my story can help somebody if, you know, they're going through the same thing or going through a respiratory issue or anything like that. But I just wanted to put this video out there for you guys, and I hope everyone is staying safe and staying at home. And thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you on the next one, guys. Bye.